In a world constantly in motion, where skies tell stories untold. One channel has the eyes to see beyond the visible. Welcome to Werx. Join us as we track and analyze the movements that shape our reality. From geopolitical shifts to the silent ops that never make the news. Dive deep into this unique perspective where we decode the signals above and reveal the stories they hide. Be part of a community that values truth and transparency, where every flight tells a story. Subscribe and join the mission. Stay aware, stay prepared, and stay vigilant with Werx.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. This is going to be your SitRep. It's 1/30/2025. If you would, hit that like, subscribe, bell for notification. And, man, we would love for you to join us over here on Patreon. We've got an amazing community. And, come on over. The water temp feels fantastic. So, hey, look, we're going to talk about this crash thing that just happened in D.C. Very suspect. There's something they're not telling us. We're going to look at that closer. We're also going to look at what just happened with this F-35 that crashed in Alaska. I got some video on that we'll look at closely. And then, of course, we're going to look at the deportation, we got all kinds of traffic happening. From the Colombians coming into our country to pick up their peeps, all the way to V-22s and C-130s. And it's pretty fascinating what's going on. And then we've got some really interesting data when it comes to Guantanamo Bay yet again. We'll talk a little more about this. I don't know if you've watched any of the hearings that have been taking place with the confirmations of, for example, RFK. I know today Kash Patel is in front of them. But the irony, when you have Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders actually criticizing RFK, asking him if he's going to sue pharmaceutical companies when they are on the take from Big Pharma. Elizabeth Warren, I think if I saw the numbers and these are right, she was at like $4 million a year. Bernie is in the millions. It's absolutely insane that they could actually have the audacity to question someone when they are actually so corrupt. It's not even funny. I would love to put them on the stand and ask them, how much money did you get from Big Pharma last year? Those are questions that need to be asked. They should be fully investigated. And if Trump wants to do something to help kind of kibosh some of the activity in the swamp, quit letting them get rich when they come into office. Why don't you go in and basically say, hey, you know what, campaign finance reform, no more money from Big Pharma, no more lobbying with people being able to buy senators and buy their votes. They need to be there representing us, the constituents, and that is the bottom line. And they need to come out of there not making, $200 million and going in as a pauper. It's just absolutely incredible what they're getting away with. And so I hope the light is shined on that darkness, and I hope that we see them all going to Guantanamo Bay for treason. That's just me. Okay. Well, it's probably you too. But let's get in here and take a look at the skies. We are sitting over here in Sky Glass currently, and we're sitting at around 275 up. I've got 41 H-60s that take up the sky. You can see it is very active and busy. Those are going to be your Blackhawks. In fact, we'll talk a little more about the Blackhawks. You start looking at the air refuelers, 28 that are up. Remember, it's a big indicator of fighter activity. And then, of course, you add the B-76200s to that. And we are sitting at a very large number. Let's see, 43 on screen. 25 is your average, okay? So a lot of activity going on there. Let's just go ahead and get into this. I want to show you a couple things. We'll start off in the intelligence community because this does certainly tell a bit of a story. Just notice they are still very active over South Korea. Remember, that president is sitting in jail right now. And you get over to Europe, and you'll just notice they're looking closely at Belarus. That's because Belarus is about to take delivery of some hypersonic missiles, and then around Kaliningrad as well. And then, obviously, the Baltic Sea, it's not just Nord Stream in there. You've got all kinds of cables that are being cut as just several times now. I think 3 we're up to. Notice it was around Italy, and then, of course, over Israel. You expect to see that. Now, I do have some interesting data we're going to look at when it comes to the Middle East because I'm seeing some strange flight activity I can't really explain. And then notice, too, that you've got aircraft leaving. That's a GLEX flight leaving, headed down to Key West. We seem to be parking a lot of assets down there in the Keys at the Naval Air Station there. So AWACS included. And then, of course, you got some flights going over Alabama. I've seen some drone activity over Dothan that makes me wonder if they aren't getting ready to lock some folks up that have been rehomed down in that general area. So, okay, let's go R135. So we'll start off on the intelligence side, and then we'll delve into all of the, as we get into the news, all of the other stuff going on, okay? So this R135s, and notice this one heads out to Hawaii and then disappears out over the Pacific Ocean, but pretty active over the United States, that little snake tongue looking at the Texas border. This one here, more than likely over Vegas, is supporting some type of a red flag exercise. And then you'll see them over the Dakotas, as always, but pretty active over the center of the U.S. Now, the other piece, too, we don't want to lose sight of is the nuke sniffer. This one, it's the only place it's been last 2 days, out over Alaska. Look at where it's headed, right? North of Alaska, out there over the water. That is looking for nukes, smelling for nukes. So they are certainly worried about something out there, okay? And then last, E6. This is the last 2 days of E6. I will tell you there's a flight that is not showing on here that was very suspect over Washington, D.C. I don't know why they would erase it when they didn't erase the rest of these flights. But you can see it headed down to Florida. That's into Trump territory. But nothing. This is that area where it's just vacant, not there. So I know the flight was there. We saw it. And then last thing here, we're going to look at the AWACS. And center of the U.S., again, I think there's stuff going on over Vegas. That's what this is. Notice, too, that up there near Reno, we saw ICE was active up there. And then off here, they're probably looking at the ship traffic in that general area. Just kind of, that looks like a check ride almost. It just kind of went up and down, come back to Tinker. That's one of their base operations. And then this into the Keys. Remember, I was just showing you, we're starting to park some assets down there in Key West. And then over some low-hanging fruit there over Norfolk and D.C. And then you can see this. That's out looking at ship traffic over the North Sea. And then down southern France. A little bit of activity there over Constanta. All right. Looking at stuff, probably ship traffic out over the Black Sea. All right. Now, let's just kind of start peeling this back. We got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm going to try to get through it as best I can. But this part right here, Trump plans to finally withdraw U.S. troops from Syria. Now, I want to show you some C-17 traffic because I was looking at it to see if maybe we could glean some deportations coming out. And although I do see a lot of activity down there at the Southern California border, that's promising. And I do see some flights headed down to Central America. That's also promising, right? That looks, that's pretty good. Maybe even South America. That's a C-17, so U.S. military deporting some folks. A little light for 2 days. Notice there's a ton of traffic going across the drink. Now, I get over here, and you'll notice it's in its usual areas, right, into Europe. But take a look at this when we get down to the Middle East, because this is the one where I go, what is going on here? I see some broken traces headed down south, but then look at the traffic. That's into Syria. Look at the amount of C-17s going into Syria. Absolutely between coming out of Qatar into, that's straight up Syria. That's close to Damascus, right? That is, I don't know what they're putting or what they're moving, but that is big, okay? We've never seen anything like that, right? Syria is, that's a terrorist hotbed. So why are we having all of this C-17 traffic when Trump is talking about pulling our troops out of Syria? Now, you go look at the map at where our troops are located in Syria, and I will say, I mean, that is not where they were going. It was up here in this area. So we don't have any U.S. troops in Damascus area. So what are they doing there, right? I don't know that those are even U.S. C-17s. If it's Middle Eastern, then you got the Muslims on the move, and they were putting a lot of stuff or taking a lot of stuff out of Damascus. So eyes on that. But if when he starts talking about pulling troops out, he's mainly talking about here. We've got, I think they said, what was the number? We thought we had 9,000, but we've got 2,000 in Syria. The Pentagon just subtly dropped that out there. All right, let's take a look. What is Trump up to today? Not too much. He's hanging out at the White House. So we press on. Okay, did you see this? Remember, these things always happen in threes. This is numero uno. But this is the jet that came down. Now, the interesting piece is, as I researched this, they said that the pilot said he had just a malfunction. But what is weird is, and I want you to pay attention to this, this is the runway right out here behind this KC-135, right? These are parked on the tarmac, but this is the runway. If this guy was on final approach and all of a sudden, you know, it stalled out, because when you see the aircraft coming in, it clearly stalled. His landing gear are down, and he said he had a major malfunction that caused this crash. Now, I'm going to take you over here. We're going to look at this on the loop for a second, because this is why I think it's interesting. His altitude's too high for him to be on final, to have those landing gear down in order to say that he had a malfunction, right? Supposedly he was getting ready to land. This is an A platform, by the way. It's a A variant. Sorry, not platform. F-35A. That means it's a U.S. Air Force. It's not the hover one, all right? So the fact that his landing gear was out at that high of an altitude, to me, is suspect. Something doesn't add up for that. I mean, clearly it is stalled out, because the thing is just flipping and falling straight down out of the sky. All right, so that's your first one that I think is definitely suspect. Okay, so let's go back over here, and then I'm going to start getting kind of into this piece with the Blackhawk and what happened. All right, so listen in. We've got some audio. We've got some things we're going to cover. Let me take away this, and we're going to look at sky glass first. All right, these rings that you see that look like a fence that go around, that's just the TFR that's over the DC area. Now, notice this is PAT 25. Note the call sign, Priority Air Transport. It originated, what looks like, out of Langley, okay, that's CIA, okay? And then you'll see it, it's going to flash a couple times as it comes across, but you're going to see it start to come into kind of that tighter circle. It's following the Potomac, okay? Now, when you get a little bit further up, and we start to approach the crash area, what I want you to note is, note the heading as to where this thing is flying, okay? As it flies, it follows the Potomac. Now, keep in mind, if you've ever flown into Washington, D.C., typically they do follow the Potomac, and that's their runway approach. Today, it was coming in off of runway 33, which is coming across the Potomac, so traffic would be coming across this area, all right? Now, you notice that it is flying along the Potomac. Again, normal, you know, but you're getting close to a Class B airport, which means major traffic coming in, okay? As this thing comes across and you've got traffic that is heading across the Potomac to land, all right? I want you to notice, this is the thing that caught my eye mainly, all right? The heading that this Blackhawk is coming in would be looking directly at an airplane that is approaching the runway, okay? So note that. He's going to see it. This aircraft that's coming in, it's got landing gear lights on, everything. It's on final approach. So gear down, flaps down. Airspeed is probably around 165 miles an hour for a CRJ-700, right, on final. So this thing's coming in. He certainly has to see this, right? Because notice the heading as it's coming in, right? You've got one aircraft taking off that banks left, right? And he's still heading down that Potomac side, right? Again, note the heading. He's looking directly at this aircraft coming into his sight. This is where I think this gets very suspect. That right there is your American airline aircraft on final approach, getting ready to land, coming across the Potomac, all right, coming in from the other direction, and then bang, we've got contact. But notice, right, this wasn't, it came in from the side and they couldn't see each other. At first I thought, well, maybe they had a blind spot, all right? Now listen to this audio, and this will also kind of paint the story for you. This guy is non-responsive, all right?
Pathfinder, CRJ. Good service.
American 4782 by Baton now for individual.
American 472, Washington Star, 1 star, 32017.
This is Win.
Where's the other 3?
It is off the approaching the runway 33. Approaching the runway 33. Helicopter crash. Helicopter. Yes, copies. I was reporting a CRJ and a helicopter crash into the Potomac River.
Can we go ahead and hold all operations till we have emergency units respond? We're going to go ahead and show the air.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take you back over the mini just so you're looking at this, all right? I think this is an important topic, an important point to all of this. So at the very beginning of the audio, you hear them talk basically asking if, talking to Pat 25, do you see the CRJ? Telling that aircraft or that helicopter to pass behind the aircraft as it's coming in. So that Blackhawk should have kind of banked a little bit left and put him off the head-on course with this aircraft. This is why it's suspect. These are top-notch pilots, right? When you start talking about the Blackhawk and the ones that fly the Pat aircraft, let me just take you, first and foremost, this is the website that is the Joint Task National Capital Regions, U.S. Army Military District of Washington. This is where they operate out of, all right? Now, there is nothing from them in terms of press release. They have not said a word. Why? Typically, you would at least post something. We, hearts and, thoughts go out to the family and prayers, right, et cetera. There'd be something, even if it was informal as we conduct an investigation, whatever it may be. No press release from them, okay? Zero. Now, this helicopter is actually what they call the gold top, all right? You can see the gold top right here. This is, they are mainly flying, right, high-level military officials and or like congressmen, senators, DOD, top-level execs. The fact it came out of Langley, the fact that this would have been a gold top because it was a Pat 25 call sign. They could have been in a regular Blackhawk, but the ones that operate out of this it's called the gold top for a reason, because they are carrying some, and it's why they have the priority air transport call sign, all right? Not just a regular UH-60 or any other military call sign. It's the priority air transport, all right? So this would be what operates out of that location. Zero press releases. Very, very unusual. And again, you can see, just kind of go through, you can see some of the helo stuff in here with the H-60s. But not good. Nothing. Crickets coming out of them. All right? So that part to me is very suspect. The fact that it was on a heading that he should have been able to see them coming in for a landing, you don't miss that, especially if you're at the same altitude and everything. You're looking right at them. Almost makes you wonder if they didn't deliberately fly into that that aircraft. Then the other piece too that I have questions on would be why do they not make a press statement? Who was on board? They're not really saying. They've said 3 soldiers, but they haven't really indicated if there was anybody else on. I keep hearing, it was just a training op. Could have been. But something just doesn't sit right with all of this, right? And oh, by the way, the police department is now saying on the recovery aspect, FAA and TSB, I had originally heard there were 4 people that were pulled that were taken to the hospital, but I'm hearing there were 0 survivors out of 64 souls on that CRJ. Straight up horrific. Cannot imagine what that would have been like. So again, this is number 2. Always happens in 3s. So keep our eyes peeled. All right. Next piece. Trump to send the worst criminal migrants to Guantanamo Bay. Look, let me go back over here to our headline because this, I think, is pretty interesting. Hang on. That's not the right one. This is the one. We'll come back to that one. It says here that he signed an executive order to use Guantanamo Bay to hold over 30,000 illegal aliens. Remember I told you that there was an immigrant camp at Guantanamo Bay? Well, this right here, I think is fantastic. We are watching those flights. In fact, if you look at some of the C-130 traffic in the previous SitReps, we could show you flights that were going into Guantanamo Bay, which told me they got some bad dudes that they're putting in there. They're also an immigrant camp there. So 30,000. That's 2x the size of the one at Biggs Army Airfield. Now, I also have a feeling that this will also house, and we will see trials for not illegals, for these people that have committed treason against our country. Okay, so let's talk about that. Hopefully, there is some kind of a segue in the future where this name and Guantanamo Bay basically work hand in hand. Be fantastic to see these traitors swing from ropes. All right, headed to the gallows. But look at this. This is the first step. Right? And he did this not just to this dirtbag, but to others. It says the Pentagon revokes his security detail. Oh, that's weird. Why would you need a security detail, mate? And then his clearance. So he is no longer able to hold a clearance, and he no longer has security. And hopefully the next time we see his face, it will be, at trial. Okay. But that is the first step. He's done that with a bunch of people. Okay. Sorry, I have got it on the wrong screen. There we go. Too many buttons. I do apologize, and I do need more coffee. So yeah, so this is Milley basically losing all of his credentials and no longer read on the programs. Oh boy, what a real bummer. Okay, let's move on. So here's the other piece. You see this? ICE raids will absolutely dismantle the cartels and gangs. This is coming from a formal director, but when we started to look at the flights that were actually taking shape, right? The fact that Trump has come out and said that the cartels will be labeled as terrorist organizations, I think is a beautiful thing, but it is definitely going to be tough getting all of this done. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to take you back over here. And I showed you this a minute ago. We talked about Gitmo. This is where a lot of these bad guys are going. But look at this. Remember when I was showing you that the Omni folks were flying in and out of Central America still, and that the NGOs were still very active? Well, this confirmed what we thought. All right. They're basically saying now that based on the data that they're finding, that there are hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens in the pipeline. That means those flights coming in from Omni very likely are still bringing them in to our country. Now, eventually, maybe it'll get shut down, but that right there, I think, is something we pay close attention to. All right, it's a great data point for you. Now let's go back over here. We're talking about dismantling all of that, and then I'm also going to show you. Here it is. Air Force conducts more deportation flights with armed security forces, Ravens. Pretty cool. The Dagger guys are probably involved in all of this. We see the V-22s coming in. That's going to be probably MARSOC and your Marines. So let's go take a look at what those are up to. Okay, so we start off over here. This is going to be your V-22s. Just notice they are very active up the East Coast into the D.C. area down to the Carolinas. And then you come over here to this side of the house and you'll see very active up in New Mexico. Right? And then look at the flights all around here, up from north of Vegas all the way down to the southern border. So that is a good sign. We see some V-22s getting busy. But then you get over here to this side and you'll see the C-130s also right where the V-22s are operating, Southern California, along the southern border. Okay. Notice there's a flurry of stuff going into Abilene. All right. We saw C-17s doing the same thing. See this? This is where they're coming in. I think they're basically staging them in Abilene and they're flying them out of the country there. See that broken trace? C-130 headed out of the country. All right. We had some C-17s doing the same thing. Almost the same flight path. So that's a good indicator. That means that C-130s are also, along with C-17s, taking them out of our country. And then you'll just notice all of them moving in. They seem to be coming into, again, Abilene. So it looks like that's a processing location for them. And then, so we talked C-130s. Now, check this out. This is the Colombians, last 2 days. And that's a broken trace. It's not a down aircraft, by the way, when we kick it up sideways and look at it. But just notice, southern border, right? You see them flying into San Diego. Yeah, I go back 5 days, and there's multiple flights coming in from Colombia. Again, that right there is not, it continued on. It didn't crash. That would be straight down, right? But in and out of Colombia. So Colombia is actually sending their military planes in to pick up these illegals and take them out of the country. Now, you go over here to Omni, and this is where I said the NGOs, and I showed you the fact that there are hundreds of thousands in the pipeline, right? Notice there are southern border locations, but the big takeaway to this is Mexico, Central America down to Panama, and a flurry of activity into Colombia. So they're flying them out or in faster than we're deporting them. I can guarantee that. All right. But that maybe eventually this will have a pendulum swing and it'll change. Now go look at Global X. Now, I think Global X may have had a change of heart because I'm seeing a lot of things that would indicate they're taking people to the 72-hour holding facility coming out of Minneapolis, headed down to Alexandria, right? You see that right there? It's Alexandria. And then notice there's one comes from the border up to Alexandria as well. They're holding them there, and then they'll get deported. Also notice the flights that come down to Central America. I think these guys are basically going, all right, we're just going to reverse the flow. And that's probably what we're seeing. All right. So Global X having a little change of heart. Actually, they're just following the money. They'll do whatever. They'll sell their own mothers out to make a buck. Okay. All right. This is going to be your Baltic Dry Index. I just want to give you just a heads up. Back of the napkin. Definitely not good when this number is going down like it is, and it continues to go down. You can see it is on a pretty steady course. This is an indicator of the world economy. All right. And so when you start to see that thing get down into the 500 range, we all need to be kind of, watching closely because that could be an indicator of some type of a recession, global recession on the horizon. So let's keep moving on. Got a lot to cover. Here's Guantanamo Bay. We've been talking a lot about it. I want to show you the board is, once again, nothing on the board. You got this one that is scheduled. It's the first flight I've seen scheduled into the spa since Trump took office, other than the ones that they wiped where they were taking people out. Now, I will tell you, yesterday I saw Coast Guard going in and out. It's not on the board, it won't show on the board. So the Coast Guard looks to be active in bringing people to Guantanamo Bay as well. Here's another example. You've got this one leaving, right? You note the NA. See this right here? That's Base Commander, little Navy beach UC-12M Huron. It's a BE-20. This one, I don't know if it came out of Guantanamo Bay. No, it doesn't look like it did. But that's a Gitmo. I just showed you the board. I got nothing on the board other than this United Airline flight coming in from Jacksonville, which will be Legal Eagles, right? It's Uber for Legal Eagles. Haven't seen them in a while either. So, all right, just pay attention to that. Okay, looking at the NOTAMs, just notice we got the boxes out here off the West Coast. I mean, they're all the way. Look how busy this is. These are danger boxes here, right? We did have some activity north out here looking at this atmospheric river by NOAA and NASA. Now, the other thing, too, I'm going to show you. These are all danger boxes all around, all right, all the way up the East Coast. As always, we've been seeing them for a while. Notice the NOTAM size over Trump. Okay, I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit. That little red dot right there in the center was what we normally would see associated with Trump. Now, all of a sudden, he's got a Biden circle. Giant. That usually is because they need more time, all right? And they want aircraft in a further circle. We knew that when Biden was in office that they would do that because they needed a lot more time to get him, pointed in the right direction and out of harm's way, okay? My guess is this one right here is the Melania effect, okay? She's gorgeous, right? We all know that. You'd have to be blind not to recognize it, okay? I think even a blind man knows that Melania is gorgeous. But here's the thing. That takes time. And also, she wears some stilettos, man. So it's going to take her longer. I'm being a little facetious here, but maybe it takes a little longer because, she's going to be going with him if they bug out or whatever it may be, or if they have to hunker down. They got to get her round up too. I'm just throwing that in there. I don't think it's Trump just because he's had this little one for so long and he never really gets the big ones. So just throwing it out there, a little bit of tongue in cheek. I would just call it the Melania effect. Okay. And then, of course, you get up here to this area and you can just see that's the normal over the swamp, all right, the brown zone. Yeah, there's a lot of boxes out there right now, a lot of danger boxes, a lot of bad weather, just all kinds of different things happening around the world. You can see we had all of this up around Iceland. There was a bunch over Scotland, and Sweden has had a bunch for a while. That has since gone away, but these are all, danger boxes or, something along those lines, mil ops, whatever it may be. All right, just a quick gander. We're going to skip Biggs. There's nothing going on at Biggs Army Airfield today. It was just one little Omni flight going to Perot and Fort Worth Alliance. So we're going to jump over to Dover to begin, and just notice you've got a Coletta coming back from RZE. You've got another 747 coming in from JFK, but then notice that they turn around, they become U.S. Transportation Command flights headed to RZE and Constanta. Constanta is a very large forward operating. Matter of fact, both of these are forward operating bases. So we're still sending stuff over there. We're going to get a closer look at that as we get further in here. Now, the other piece, too, is if you look, this is going to be your Camber flights, again, leaving Ramstein. Look at this one. This is down in Benghazi. Interesting that it's coming out of Benghazi. Very unusual, in fact, because the Russians are in Benghazi. So what is going on? Why do we have a Camber flight in Benghazi? And then here you got it coming out of Hunter in Savannah. Moving on, looking at the Brits, and they're pretty active over the United States, coming and going in and out. Looks like San Antonio. Maybe they're helping deport some people. All right, this is RZE. We're just looking for the big boys coming in. Camber coming in from Dover. We've got another one coming in from Constanta. Maybe they're moving around some assets, right? Making some final deliveries. I will tell you the funding for little man Zelensky is certainly starting to kind of plateau. I think Trump has stopped it, and he's in full panic mode, okay? Now, I do want to show you one more thing. This is a big takeaway for you. Fatal Ukrainian drone barrage on Russia hits the oil refineries. This is not good, and the reason it's not good is because when it comes to the global supply of oil and gas, okay, when you start taking things out of that pipeline, I don't care if it's Russia, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Venezuela, whatever it may be, you are going to cause a spike in terms of what oil costs by the barrel. It's just, it's the flow of goods. And so when you take that out of the production cycle and you start damaging all of the oil fields, let's just go over here. I'm going to show you what and how many they have actually hit. You get into this piece. These are all the oil refineries and production stuff in Russia. And you can start to notice that a lot of them have fire over each one. That's because Ukrainians are taking direct hits against the refineries in Russia. Again, it's not good for us. It's like putting sanctions on them. It always comes back to bite us. The fact that Ukrainians are out hitting them with the oil refineries, you can imagine if that was the United States and somebody was popping things off from Mexico and taking out our oil refineries, what that would do to our cost of goods, period, because everything is made from petroleum, everything. I don't care if it's Tupperware or TVs. It's all made out of that product. So you start doing that and you start taking out the supply, it's not a good thing. Right? And it's just these little deals right here, flying them in and hitting them. But if they did that to the U.S. From, say, Mexico or anywhere else, man, we'd be at war in about 3 days, okay? And I mean, we'd be scorched earth. And here it is. Look how deep this is, right, where they're hitting these refineries. You can see the fires that are going on. So pretty bad in terms of what this is going to do to the economy, because there are a lot of people that still get their oil from Russia, and so that right there, especially in the winter with heating, etc., not good. So, all right, well, look, that is going to do it for our SitRep today. Again, ear to the ground. Something stinks to high heaven with this Blackhawk. When you start to look at the directional, the heading, right? Going straight at that aircraft that's coming inbound. And you're talking about an aircraft that's got all of its lights on. It's nighttime, right, as well. So you got landing lights, everything, right? There's no way he didn't see it. So definitely suspect. Time will tell here shortly. Maybe we'll get a glean into who was actually on board that helo, right? And if it was indeed a gold top, then that would be very suspect as to why they're not telling us. So if it's just a regular Blackhawk and it was upside down and still classified as a priority air transport, I don't know. Training mission? I don't know. I'm a skeptic on all of this. So, All right. You guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry and stay frosty. We'll see you for the next SitRep. That's it. God bless. Monkey out.